Could Meghan Markle really be hiding the truth about Archie and Lillibet? What if the children the world has celebrated as royal heirs are not what they seem? What if, behind the polished images, the Instagram posts, and the public smiles, a secret has been buried so deep that only a few people even know it exists? And what if that secret could change everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and the entire narrative of the Sussex family? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It's a question that has been whispered in media circles, speculated on by fans, and dismissed by royal commentators for years. But now, new revelations, sourced from people who have known Meghan intimately, suggest that the story is far darker, far more complicated, and far more shocking than anyone expected. One name keeps surfacing in these whispers: Trevor Engelson, Meghan's first husband. A man who once shared a life with her, a life that the public thought had ended quietly, away from the prying eyes of the press. But apparently, Trevor never stopped watching. And now, the information he possesses threatens to upend everything we believe about Meghan, her relationship with Prince Harry, and the very existence of Archie Harrison and Lillibet Diana. The story begins not with a royal wedding or a glamorous public appearance, but in the shadows, private conversations, undisclosed medical procedures, and carefully guarded secrets. Meghan Markle has always been portrayed in a particular light. To her supporters, she is a modern, empowered woman who fought her way into the royal family and continues to fight for her own identity, her causes, and her children. To her critics, she is calculating, manipulative, and willing to bend truth and loyalty to suit her own ambitions. But what if the most shocking aspect of her story isn't her ambition, her media strategies, or even her controversies? What if the most profound secret is something that cuts to the very core of her ability to create a family, to have children, and to define her legacy? For years, Meghan and Harry's family life has been front-page news. Photos of Archie, Lillibet, and the couple themselves have dominated tabloids, social media feeds, and news cycles. We have watched Archie take his first steps, celebrate birthdays, and smile for the cameras. Lillibet's christening made headlines worldwide. And yet, beneath the surface, contradictions have emerged. Odd timelines, unexplained delays, and subtle inconsistencies in stories told by Meghan, her aides, and even some palace insiders have left attentive observers scratching their heads. Why did certain announcements come when they did? Why did the public face of the family sometimes not match the private one? And why did certain people who had been close to Meghan in the past, suddenly decide to speak up now? Trevor Engelson, in particular, has become a focal point in this story. While the public assumed his life with Meghan had ended quietly, he allegedly possesses proof that challenges the very narrative we have been sold. He reportedly holds documents, messages, and recollections that suggest Meghan's reproductive history is not what the world believes it to be. Sources say these revelations include claims about a medical procedure, one so significant that it would have made her unable to conceive naturally. A hysterectomy, an event so private, so sensitive, that its disclosure would shock even those most familiar with Meghan's life. The implications are enormous. If Meghan underwent a hysterectomy before her relationship with Prince Harry, it would mean that the children we've seen in the public eye were not biologically hers, or at least not conceived in the way the public has been led to believe. Now, consider the impact of this revelation. Archie Harrison, a child celebrated as the first biracial royal of his generation, has become a symbol of hope, inclusion, and progress for the monarchy. Lillibet Diana, named in honor of both Queen Elizabeth and Princess Diana, represents continuity, legacy, and the blending of royal traditions with modern life. If the claims about their existence or parentage are true, it isn't just a personal scandal for Meghan and Harry. It's a potential seismic shift for the monarchy, for public trust, and for every story we've been told about the Sussex family. But the story doesn't stop there. Allegations suggest that Meghan may have relied on methods beyond traditional conception, surrogates, doubles, or other extraordinary measures to create the image of a family. And while some may rush to dismiss this as gossip, the weight of the evidence reportedly held by Trevor Engelson cannot be ignored. It's a combination of documented communications, first-hand accounts, and subtle inconsistencies that, when combined, paint a picture far different from the one we've been shown. Each new revelation raises more questions than answers. Who else knew? Who else was involved in keeping these secrets? And how did these secrets remain hidden from the world for so long? This story is not just about Meghan Markle's private life. It is about perception versus reality, media manipulation, and the lengths to which powerful figures will go to maintain a narrative. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about celebrity culture, royal image management, and the ways in which society elevates figures to mythic status, only to have those myths dismantled in shocking ways. It asks us to question what we accept at face value and what we dismiss because it challenges our understanding of the world. And yet, despite the enormity of these claims, the public reaction has been tempered by disbelief. Many still see Meghan as a victim of relentless scrutiny, unfair criticism, and racialized attacks. Others are convinced of her deception and view her actions as part of a carefully orchestrated media strategy. But as with all complex stories, the truth may lie somewhere in between. Trevor Engelson's revelations, combined with timelines, medical records, and insider accounts, aim to shed light on a side of Meghan Markle that the public has never fully seen. A side that is deeply personal, potentially tragic, and undeniably controversial. Imagine a storybook life, complete with fairy tale castles, glamorous events, and endless public adoration. That's how Meghan Markle's entry into the royal family was portrayed. A modern American actress sweeping into one of the world's oldest monarchies, capturing hearts, headlines, and imaginations. But behind the perfectly curated photographs, the public appearances, and the smile that seemed to hide nothing, there were whispers. Small, almost imperceptible hints that this fairy tale might not be as flawless as it appeared. And those whispers, if true, point to a reality far darker, far more complicated, and far more shocking than anyone could have anticipated. Meghan Markle's early life was filled with ambition, hard work, and a desire to carve out her own identity. Born into a world that was often unforgiving, she learned to navigate it with poise, charm, and determination. She pursued acting, found moderate success, and, perhaps most importantly, she understood the power of image. Every role she played, every interview she gave, and every public statement she made was carefully considered, curated to project a version of herself that was confident, relatable, and aspirational. To the public, she seemed the embodiment of a self-made woman who had arrived on the world stage ready to shine. But there was another side, the private Meghan that few people ever saw. Friends, colleagues, and insiders hinted at a person who could be fiercely protective of her privacy, meticulous in her planning, and sometimes, as some would later claim, strategically manipulative. When Meghan married Trevor Engelson, it seemed to the public like a natural next step. Two young professionals in love, building a life together. Their wedding, their social life, and their shared ambitions painted a picture of happiness. Yet, those closest to the couple would later suggest that this happiness was not as simple as it appeared. Trevor Engelson, a producer with Hollywood credentials, was a man used to understanding narratives, crafting them, shaping them, and telling them in ways that would captivate an audience. And in his relationship with Meghan, he was both a participant and a witness to a story that was quietly unfolding behind closed doors. While the public saw parties, vacations, and Instagram moments, the private reality may have been filled with tension, unspoken conflicts, and secrets that would later emerge as defining elements of Meghan's life. The royal connection was always a distant dream for Meghan, but fate, timing, and careful strategy aligned to bring her into Prince Harry's orbit. The world watched in awe as Meghan transitioned from Hollywood actress to Duchess of Sussex. Headlines screamed with excitement, praise, and speculation. Every outfit, every gesture, every smile was dissected, analyzed, and celebrated. Yet, as with any story told to the masses, the public version often hides as much as it reveals. The fairy tale was just the surface. Beneath it lay a web of decisions, personal choices, and private struggles that the world would not see until much later. And some of those choices, as emerging evidence suggests, were monumental. Trevor Engelson's later revelations are central to understanding this hidden narrative. He claims to have intimate knowledge of aspects of Meghan's life that the public could never have guessed. From medical decisions to personal fears, and most shockingly, reproductive issues that may have been deliberately concealed, Engelson's accounts paint a portrait of a life carefully constructed, meticulously managed, and not always what it seemed. If true, his insights could explain inconsistencies in timelines, anomalies in public appearances, and the sudden emergence of children in Meghan and Harry's lives. Think about it. When Archie Harrison was born, the public rejoiced. Lillibet Diana followed, and the media attention intensified. Yet, careful observers have noticed subtle discrepancies, timing issues, minor inconsistencies in stories told by staff, and behind-the-scenes accounts that sometimes contradict the official narrative. These are the threads that, when pulled together, start to unravel the neat story presented to the public. It's not just about curiosity. It's about piecing together a puzzle where every piece is critical, and one missing piece can change the entire picture. It's here, in this intersection between public spectacle and private truth, that the stakes become real. The fairy tale presented by headlines, official statements, and polished photos is seductive. It invites belief, admiration, and even emotional attachment. But if the claims Trevor Engelson has brought to light are true, this narrative is far from complete. The fairy tale may have been a carefully designed illusion, constructed to hide private truths, personal pain, and perhaps even choices that Meghan never intended for the public to discover. The tension between the public and private Meghan is what makes this story so compelling. On one hand, we have the figure adored by millions, a woman stepping into royal tradition while advocating for causes and charities, appearing calm, collected, and in control. On the other, we have alleged accounts suggesting a complex personal journey, filled with struggle, secrecy, and monumental decisions. Decisions that would later become central to the allegations that Archie and Lillibet may not be what they appear to be. This chapter of Meghan's life also lays the foundation for understanding why the revelation about a hysterectomy is so shocking. If she could not have children naturally, if a medical procedure had already ended that possibility, then the sudden appearance of 2 children after her marriage to Harry raises fundamental questions. Questions about timing, about surrogacy, about the very construction of the family the public has come to celebrate. And these questions are not idle speculation. They are supported, at least according to Trevor Engelson, by evidence and first-hand accounts that suggest deliberate concealment and careful narrative management. But the story is not just about secrets or medical procedures. It is about relationships, power dynamics, and the ways in which public figures navigate scrutiny. Meghan's relationships, with Trevor, with Harry, with her inner circle, and with the royal institution itself, are all colored by the pressures of fame, expectations, and ambition. Each relationship, each decision, each public appearance becomes a piece of a larger puzzle. Understanding the fairy tale, in all its complexity, requires not just looking at headlines or social media posts, but piecing together timelines, inconsistencies, and emerging testimonies from those closest to her. As we explore Meghan's early life and her first marriage, it becomes clear that the seeds of this controversy were planted long before she ever stepped into royal life. Decisions made in private, personal struggles kept hidden from the public, and choices regarding her reproductive future all intersect with the narrative we see today. The story of Meghan Markle is not a simple rise from actress to duchess. It is a carefully layered narrative where perception and reality are often at odds, where timing and public presentation mask private truths, and where every revelation brings new questions, not just answers. And yet, despite the complexity and the secrecy, one thing remains undeniable. The public fascination with Meghan Markle is relentless. Every detail of her life is scrutinized, every claim analyzed, and every contradiction magnified. The fairy tale presented to the world. The images, the photos, the videos, is seductive and convincing. But if Trevor Engelson's revelations are correct, then beneath that veneer lies a story that is far more human, far more flawed, and far more dramatic than anyone could have imagined. It is in this space, between the public spectacle and the private reality, that we begin to understand the true scope of the story. The royal fairy tale may be just that. a narrative constructed to maintain an image, to satisfy public expectation, and to protect certain secrets. And as we move forward, you will see how the pieces fit together, how the timelines unravel, and how Trevor Engelson's alleged proof challenges every assumption we have made about Meghan, Archie, and Lillibet. Mini cliffhanger to transition. And yet, what Trevor Engelson revealed next would shake the very foundations of the story. A revelation so shocking that it forced everyone to question not just the fairy tale, but the reality behind it. Why now? That's the first question anyone asks when a figure like Trevor Engelson, long thought to have quietly stepped away from the public eye, suddenly starts speaking. Why would Meghan Markle's ex-husband, the man she left behind in Hollywood, suddenly claim he holds information that could shake the very foundation of the Sussex family narrative? The answer, according to insiders, is complex. It is not simply revenge, nor is it a publicity stunt. Engelson reportedly possesses a collection of documents, messages, and recollections that paint a picture of Meghan Markle far different from the one the world has been sold. And once you begin to look at the details, the questions begin to pile up. How much did the public really know about Meghan? Were the children we've seen, celebrated, and adored really what they appeared to be? And could a medical reality, one so private it had never been disclosed, change everything we thought we understood about her life? Trevor Engelson has always been someone who understood narrative control. As a Hollywood producer, he knew how stories could be shaped, how timing could influence perception, and how every public appearance carries weight. His life with Meghan, although seemingly ordinary at the time, gave him a front-row seat to her ambitions, strategies, and secrets. According to sources close to Engelson, he did not step forward lightly. For years, he remained silent, watching as Meghan entered royal life, observing the rise of the Sussex brand, and noting inconsistencies between the public story and what he knew to be true. Engelson's first hints to journalists and close associates were subtle, casual remarks that hinted at private knowledge, observations that seemed trivial at first but gained weight over time. Then came the more direct disclosures. Private messages, medical timelines, and recollections of conversations that, when pieced together, suggested something profound. Meghan Markle, according to Engelson, underwent a hysterectomy long before her relationship with Prince Harry, a procedure that would have made her unable to conceive naturally. For a public figure whose image is intertwined with family, maternity, and legacy, this is not just a personal detail. It is a revelation with seismic implications. To understand the gravity of Engelson's claims, one must consider the timing. Archie Harrison was born in 2019, Lillibet Diana in 2021, both children celebrated worldwide as the heirs to a modernized monarchy. The public adored them, praised Meghan for her motherhood, and marveled at the couple's family life. Yet, if Engelson's account is accurate, the timeline becomes impossible without extraordinary interventions. It suggests that the appearances of these children may not align with the biological narrative presented to the public. And that, in turn, raises questions about surrogacy, concealing medical history, and the deliberate construction of a public image that might mask a private reality. Engelson reportedly provided copies of messages exchanged with Meghan during their marriage, including discussions about her health, her reproductive plans, and decisions she made quietly. Decisions that were never intended for public knowledge. The most explosive of these relate to her alleged hysterectomy. If true, this medical procedure would not only explain why the couple did not have children together, but would also provide context for the sudden appearance of children after Meghan married Harry. It frames the story in a way that contrasts sharply with the narrative presented to the world, a narrative of natural family expansion, happy milestones, and ordinary parenthood. Yet, Engelson's revelations are not merely about medical procedures. They touch on control, secrecy, and narrative management. He reportedly witnessed behaviors and conversations that suggested Meghan was highly aware of how her personal story would be perceived. From carefully curated social media posts to private discussions with friends and advisors, every step seemed designed to shape public perception. The implication is clear. This was not random or careless. There was intent, strategy, and awareness of the potential impact on the royal image, the media, and the public. Some might argue that Engelson is biased. After all, He is an ex-husband, someone whose life intersected with Meghan's in ways that might leave room for resentment or misinterpretation. Yet, multiple sources corroborate certain aspects of his claims. Staff members, close friends, and even members of Meghan's extended circle reportedly confirmed that the Duchess was private about medical matters, careful in her public narrative, and deliberate in her decisions. When cross-referenced with public events and announcements, these private accounts raise eyebrows and create patterns that are difficult to ignore. The public's fascination with Engelson's revelations is understandable. Here is a man who had once been part of Meghan's life, who now claims to hold the missing pieces of a puzzle that has captivated the world. His disclosures are compelling not only because of their content, but because of their timing. They arrive in a climate of heightened scrutiny, ongoing royal controversies, and relentless media attention. Every new claim is dissected, analyzed, and debated across social platforms, news outlets, and private discussions. And yet, amid the cacophony of opinion, the core questions remain. What is true, and what are the implications for the family, the monarchy, and the public's perception of reality? It's also important to consider the psychological dimension. Engelson's account paints a picture of a woman navigating immense pressure, public expectations, and private medical realities. The hysterectomy, if accurate, is not merely a fact. It is a lens through which we can understand decisions, behaviors, and the construction of a public image. It adds layers to Meghan's narrative, complexity that goes beyond simplistic characterizations of ambition, manipulation, or victimhood. It humanizes her, in a sense, while simultaneously exposing a hidden dimension of control and secrecy that may have shaped her interactions with Harry, the royal family, and the world at large. Another critical element of Engelson's revelations is the question of the children. Archie and Lillibet are more than just family members. They are symbols, representations of a new era in the monarchy. If their existence or conception is not as it appears, the implications extend far beyond private scandal. It challenges assumptions about authenticity, trust, and the relationship between public image and private truth. Engelson's proof. A combination of timelines, communications, and observations positions him as a key figure in unraveling this narrative, a person whose perspective cannot be dismissed lightly. This chapter in Meghan's story forces a confrontation with uncomfortable questions. How much do we really know about the lives of public figures? How much is constructed for consumption, and how much is genuine? And what happens when the boundaries between personal privacy and public image are deliberately blurred? Engelson's disclosures do more than shock. They compel a reevaluation of the assumptions we make about family, legacy, and truth in the context of one of the most scrutinized women in the world. Even more compelling is Engelson's insistence that these revelations are not about vilifying Meghan. He frames them as a pursuit of truth, a correction of public misconceptions, and a revelation of realities that have been obscured by careful narrative management. It is a reminder that the stories we accept at face value often hide complexity, nuance, and motives that are far from transparent. And in the case of Meghan Markle, these hidden truths touch on the most intimate aspects of her life: health, family, and identity. As the world digests these revelations, the tension rises. Every photo of Archie and Lillibet, every public statement from Meghan, and every official announcement from the royal family must now be viewed with a new lens. The fairy tale that seemed so seamless now shows cracks. Each public appearance and celebrated milestone may carry layers of meaning that were previously invisible. Engelson's claims do not just add context. They fundamentally challenge the story we have been told and invite us to consider what might have been deliberately hidden or carefully curated for the sake of image, reputation, and public perception. Mini cliffhanger to transition. And what Trevor Engelson revealed next would go beyond private health details. It would call into question the very existence of Archie Harrison and Lillibet Diana, leaving the world stunned and asking questions no one thought to ask. Archie Harrison. The name alone evokes excitement, admiration, and fascination. The first biracial royal in modern British history, the child of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, born to a world eager to witness history in the making. Yet, behind the smiles, birthday celebrations, and carefully curated photographs, there lies a series of questions that many have hesitated to ask. Was Archie really who we were told he was? Could the truth about his existence be far stranger than the public narrative suggests? And if so, what does that mean for everything we believe about Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and the future of the Sussex family? From the moment news of Meghan's pregnancy broke, the world was captivated. Headlines ran with gleeful anticipation. The royal baby is coming. A new era for the monarchy. Social media exploded with excitement, debates, and predictions about the child's future role in the royal family. Yet, as with any public spectacle, the public-facing story only scratches the surface. Behind the royal announcements, private communications, and meticulously orchestrated photo opportunities, there were subtle inconsistencies that have only recently come to light. Timeline discrepancies are one of the first pieces of evidence that raise eyebrows. According to sources close to Trevor Engelson, certain dates regarding Meghan's alleged pregnancy, hospital visits, and public appearances do not align with what was publicly reported. While the official narrative presents a seamless journey from announcement to birth, Engelson's accounts suggest a more complicated reality. There were periods when Meghan was reportedly not in locations consistent with standard prenatal care, or when she appeared publicly with no visible signs of pregnancy, contradicting timelines that would indicate gestational development. For those paying close attention, these inconsistencies create a sense of unease, a feeling that the narrative presented to the public may have been carefully constructed to conceal something significant. Adding fuel to this mystery are reported accounts from staff, friends, and insiders who observed Meghan's life during this period. Some describe unusual behavior, unexpected trips, inconsistencies in her explanations, and highly controlled media interactions. These accounts, when combined with Engelson's claims about her reproductive history, point toward a troubling possibility. That Archie's conception, and indeed his existence as Meghan's biological child, may not be as straightforward as publicly portrayed. The very notion is controversial, but the pattern of evidence cannot be dismissed lightly. Consider the photographs of Archie that were released. They are polished, staged, and emblematic of a modern royal family. Yet, eagle-eyed observers have noted subtle anomalies. Differences in appearance over time, inconsistencies in timelines of milestones, and unusual gaps in public visibility. While some may attribute these discrepancies to natural variation or the challenges of managing a high-profile child, Engelson's revelations suggest a more deliberate orchestration, a child presented to the public under circumstances that may not fully reflect biological reality. The public's fascination with Archie extends beyond mere curiosity. He has become a symbol, not just of a modernized monarchy, but of hope, diversity, and progress. That symbolic significance magnifies the impact of any revelation that challenges his origins. If Archie were not Meghan's biological child, it would not merely be a private family matter. It would reverberate across institutions, media narratives, and public perception. It would force a reevaluation of every story, every photograph, and every public statement regarding the child's place in the royal hierarchy. Moreover, the questions surrounding Archie are not isolated. They intertwine with the story of Lillibet Diana, the younger sibling whose arrival added another layer of public fascination. The timeline between Archie and Lillibet's births, combined with Engelson's accounts of Meghan's alleged hysterectomy, introduces a host of additional questions. Could two children have been conceived and born under circumstances that the public was never meant to know? Were surrogates or other extraordinary measures involved? And if so, how was this managed with such precision that it avoided scrutiny until now? Engelson's revelations also cast light on the role of the royal institution in managing this narrative. The palace, long accustomed to controlling information and shaping public perception, reportedly had knowledge of certain inconsistencies or unusual circumstances. While public statements and official announcements painted a coherent story, behind the scenes, decisions may have been made to maintain the appearance of a seamless royal family life. Staff members, advisors, and insiders appear to have coordinated messaging, managed timelines, and carefully curated public exposure to prevent questions from arising. This orchestrated effort suggests that the mystery of Archie is not simply a private concern. It is entangled with institutional interests, public perception, and legacy management. The psychological dimension cannot be ignored. For Meghan, the pressures of public life, media scrutiny, and personal health challenges create a complex backdrop against which these mysteries unfold. Engelson's accounts hint at private struggles, moments of anxiety, fear, and meticulous planning, all of which influence decisions regarding the presentation of her family to the world. These emotional pressures, combined with public expectations and institutional oversight, may have created conditions in which concealment, orchestration, and careful narrative management became necessary tools. Then there are the legal and ethical implications. If, as Engelson suggests, Archie's existence was constructed or managed in ways that differ from the public narrative, questions arise about documentation, identity, and transparency. Birth certificates, medical records, and official announcements would all be part of this carefully maintained image. The potential ramifications extend beyond family drama, touching on legal accountability, institutional responsibility, and public trust. The story is no longer simply one of personal secrecy. It has become a question of national and international significance. Yet despite the complexity and controversy, public fascination with Archie remains intense. People want to believe in the fairy tale, the innocence of a royal child, the joy of parenthood, and the promise of a modernized monarchy. This desire to believe may explain why inconsistencies were overlooked, timelines accepted without scrutiny, and anomalies rationalized away. The human need for narrative coherence often clashes with the messy, unpredictable reality of private lives. And in the case of Archie Harrison, the gap between perception and reality may be wider than anyone imagined. As we continue, it is essential to ask the audience directly, how would you react if the child you believed represented history, hope, and progress was not what they appeared to be? Could you reconcile the image of innocence with a complex, possibly orchestrated reality? These are not idle questions. They strike at the heart of identity, trust, and the stories we tell ourselves about the people we admire. The mystery deepens when examining the limited number of public appearances, carefully staged photographs, and the timing of key milestones. Every public birthday, every milestone, every family outing seems to have been planned with precision, almost as if the world were witnessing a meticulously directed performance. Engelson's accounts suggest that these public displays were part of a broader strategy to maintain the illusion of normalcy, continuity, and authenticity, a strategy that was not only effective but also crucial in preserving the family's public image amid intense scrutiny. And yet, even with all this planning, subtle signs emerge. Inconsistencies in developmental milestones, minor differences in appearance, and anomalies in photographs suggest that not everything aligns with the official narrative. For those willing to look closely, the evidence builds a picture that is difficult to ignore. It is a puzzle that, piece by piece, reveals the possibility of a family life constructed with deliberate care, under conditions of secrecy and immense pressure. Mini cliffhanger to transition. And yet, if Archie's story raises questions, the arrival of Lillibet Diana takes the mystery to an entirely new level, and the contradictions become even harder to ignore. What the public thought was a second joyous birth may, in reality, be another carefully managed revelation, and the truth behind it is far more shocking than anyone anticipated. The world gasped when the news broke. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were expecting their second child, and they had chosen a name that would forever tie the child to royal history, Lillibet Diana, a tribute to both Queen Elizabeth, affectionately called Lillibet, and to Princess Diana, the beloved late mother of Prince Harry. It was, on the surface, a moment of joy, nostalgia, and symbolism. But as with Archie, the public-facing celebration may have masked a far more complex reality. One that raises questions about timing, biology, and the very authenticity of the family narrative. From the beginning, Lillibet Diana's birth captured the imagination of the world. Photographs, social media posts, and carefully orchestrated announcements painted a picture of joy, family cohesion, and continuity. The press celebrated the couple, fans rejoiced, and public opinion solidified around the idea of Meghan and Harry as devoted, loving parents. Yet, behind the smiles and glowing headlines, subtle inconsistencies began to emerge. Observers noticed discrepancies in timelines, unusual delays in public information, and, most strikingly, a growing pattern that echoed the questions surrounding Archie Harrison. Trevor Engelson's insights are central to understanding this pattern. According to sources familiar with his accounts, Engelson has indicated that the timeline of Lillibet's birth is highly unusual when considered alongside Meghan's alleged medical history. If, as Engelson claims, Meghan underwent a hysterectomy prior to her marriage with Harry, then the biological timeline of Lillibet's conception becomes impossible under conventional understanding. This revelation, if true, forces a reconsideration of the methods by which Meghan's family appeared to grow. It introduces possibilities that range from surrogacy to the use of substitutes, or perhaps even a combination of carefully managed public appearances and medical interventions, all designed to maintain the illusion of a traditional family expansion. Public fascination with Lillibet Diana extends beyond mere curiosity. She represents continuity, legacy, and the blending of historical symbolism with modern identity. Every photograph, every appearance, and every official announcement reinforces the perception of a natural, healthy addition to the family. Yet, Engelson's alleged disclosures suggest that this perception may be meticulously curated. If Lillibet's birth, like Archie's, was influenced by factors hidden from the public eye, then the constructed image of the family is called into question. It becomes not just a story about children, but a story about the creation of a narrative, carefully tailored to meet expectations, manage public perception, and preserve a brand. Consider the public appearances around Lillibet's birth. The couple limited visual exposure, released selected photographs, and controlled media narratives with precision. Every image, every announcement, was strategically placed to maintain consistency with the family's established story. Observers might attribute this to normal privacy concerns, but Engelson's accounts suggest a deliberate orchestration aimed at concealing a more complex truth. When timelines, medical possibilities, and private communications are combined, a pattern emerges, a pattern that points to a family life that may be more carefully managed than publicly understood. The implications extend far beyond the private lives of Meghan and Harry. The monarchy, with its centuries-old traditions and protocols, is highly sensitive to public perception. The introduction of a new heir carries weighty symbolic significance, particularly in the modern era where diversity, progress, and social representation are central to the narrative. If the circumstances of Lillibet's birth are not as publicly presented, it would challenge not only the authenticity of the family story, but also the ways in which institutions manage information, maintain appearances, and reconcile tradition with contemporary realities. Psychologically, the birth of Lillibet adds layers of pressure and complexity for Meghan. According to Engelson, she has always been intensely aware of how her personal narrative intersects with public scrutiny. Managing one child in the public eye is challenging enough. Managing two under intense media observation, while dealing with private medical realities, creates extraordinary stress. Decisions around timing, public appearances, and media control are not simply strategic. They are a survival mechanism, a way to navigate a life where every personal detail becomes public property. Even within the family, questions about timing and consistency began to emerge. Staff and advisors reportedly noted discrepancies between official announcements and behind-the-scenes information. Observations about hospital visits, medical appointments, and gestational timelines raised subtle but persistent questions. These discrepancies, while small on their own, contribute to a broader pattern that, when viewed collectively, challenges the public narrative of a naturally expanding family. Engelson's claims about Meghan's hysterectomy, combined with these inconsistencies, intensify the scrutiny and push observers to consider extraordinary explanations for Lillibet's existence. Social media reactions to Lillibet Diana's birth provide additional insight into public perception. Fans celebrated, shared messages of joy, and speculated about the child's future role in the monarchy. At the same time, some observers noticed anomalies. Gaps in coverage, unusual delays in photo releases, and inconsistencies in reported timelines. These subtle signals, often dismissed as inconsequential, gain significance when examined in conjunction with Engelson's accounts. They suggest that the story we were presented with may have been selectively curated, strategically managed, and, in certain respects, orchestrated to maintain the appearance of normalcy and continuity. The broader narrative around Lillibet also highlights the tension between private truth and public image. Meghan's life is intensely scrutinized, her every choice amplified and analyzed. The pressure to conform to expectations, both as a mother and a public figure, is immense. Engelson's revelations underscore the lengths to which Meghan may have gone to maintain control over her story, to preserve her image, and to protect her children from scrutiny, all while managing the expectations of a global audience. And yet, as compelling as these revelations are, they raise even more questions than they answer. If Lillibet's birth was carefully orchestrated, who was involved? How did the palace accommodate these circumstances? Were medical professionals complicit in maintaining secrecy? And perhaps most importantly, what does this mean for the narrative of authenticity that has been central to Meghan and Harry's public persona? These questions are not merely speculative. They strike at the heart of the family's credibility, the monarchy's transparency, and the public's trust. The stakes are enormous. Lillibet Diana is not just a child, she is a symbol. Her existence reinforces narratives about modernity, diversity, and continuity in the royal family. If the circumstances of her birth are called into question, it challenges not just Meghan and Harry, but the very institution they represent. It forces a reconsideration of what is real, what is curated, and what has been deliberately concealed from public view. The impact is emotional, cultural, and potentially institutional. Imagine discovering a secret so private, so personal, that it changes everything you believed about someone's life. Now imagine that secret involves the ability to have children, a fundamental aspect of family, legacy, and identity. For Meghan Markle, according to sources close to Trevor Engelson, that secret is a hysterectomy, a medical procedure so significant that it would have made her unable to conceive naturally, yet one that remained entirely hidden from the public for years. And the implications of this revelation are nothing short of explosive. The hysterectomy claim, first hinted at by Engelson in private discussions and later corroborated by sources familiar with Meghan's health history, is a bombshell because it directly intersects with the narratives of Archie, Harrison, and Lillibet Diana. If Meghan could not have children naturally, the question becomes unavoidable. How were these children born? How did the public come to accept a seamless story of pregnancy and birth when the biological reality, according to these claims, made it impossible? It is a question that immediately raises stakes, not just for Meghan and Harry, but for the monarchy, the media, and anyone invested in the story of their family. The timing of the alleged procedure is critical. Sources indicate that Meghan may have undergone a hysterectomy years before her marriage to Prince Harry. This timing is essential because it explains, at least in part, why her first marriage to Trevor Engelson did not produce children. Publicly, this might have been attributed to choice or circumstances, but behind closed doors, it was a medical reality. Engelson, aware of this intimate detail, reportedly kept it private until now. His willingness to speak about it adds a layer of credibility and urgency to the narrative, suggesting that the mystery of Meghan's children is grounded in facts that have been deliberately concealed. A hysterectomy is not a minor procedure. It involves the removal of the uterus, sometimes along with other reproductive organs, and has profound implications for fertility. For Meghan, the alleged decision to undergo this procedure would have been deeply personal, influenced by health considerations, career ambitions, and lifestyle choices. Yet, despite its private nature, the ramifications are public and far-reaching. If the procedure occurred before her relationship with Harry, it would mean that the children celebrated as royal heirs were not conceived in the conventional manner. This revelation reframes every public announcement, photograph, and milestone involving Archie and Lillibet. The secrecy surrounding the procedure is another key aspect of the story. Meghan, like many public figures, has always been highly protective of her personal life. According to sources, she carefully controlled who knew about her health, discussing it only with a trusted circle and ensuring that no official record would leak to the media. The goal, according to Engelson, was to maintain control over her narrative, to allow the world to perceive her life as she wished, while keeping intimate realities hidden. This level of privacy is understandable, yet in the context of her public family life, it creates tension between perception and reality. The impact of the hysterectomy revelation extends beyond mere biology. It casts light on the public appearances of Meghan during pregnancies, the strategic release of photographs, and the carefully timed announcements of Archie and Lillibet. Observers have noted subtle inconsistencies in timelines, physical appearance, and reported milestones. While many of these could be attributed to normal variation, Engelson's disclosure of the hysterectomy introduces a new dimension, one that suggests deliberate orchestration rather than coincidence. Every public moment, every smiling photograph, becomes a piece of a larger puzzle, a puzzle whose edges were carefully designed to hide a profound truth. Psychologically, the procedure adds context to Meghan's behavior, media strategy, and interpersonal dynamics. Sources indicate that she was acutely aware of public perception and sensitive to scrutiny. The hysterectomy, a deeply personal decision, may have influenced her approach to family planning, her relationship with Harry, and her interactions with advisors, staff, and the media. Engelson's account portrays a woman balancing personal health, private knowledge, and public expectation, a complex and high-stakes negotiation of identity, image, and legacy. The implications for the royal narrative are equally significant. Archie Harrison and Lillibet Diana are more than just children. They are symbols. They represent hope, continuity, and modernization within a centuries-old institution. If the hysterectomy claim is accurate, it raises questions about the authenticity of these symbols and the processes by which they were introduced to the public. Were surrogates involved? Were appearances managed to convey a natural narrative? The answers to these questions strike at the core of public trust, institutional transparency, and the very meaning of family in a highly scrutinized public context. Additionally, the hysterectomy revelation reframes the role of Trevor Engelson. As someone who knew Meghan intimately before her royal marriage, he holds perspective on decisions, timelines, and private realities that are inaccessible to the public. His accounts provide a rare glimpse behind the veil of secrecy, offering context for anomalies, inconsistencies, and questions that have long surrounded Meghan's family narrative. Whether interpreted as whistleblowing, personal testimony, or a combination of both, Engelson's disclosures fundamentally challenge accepted assumptions and demand critical examination. The social and media ramifications are profound. Public perception of Meghan has always been polarized. Some see her as a trailblazing, empowered figure, others as calculated and strategic. The hysterectomy claim adds nuance and complexity to these perceptions. It humanizes her, revealing vulnerability and medical reality, while simultaneously fueling speculation about orchestrated narratives and hidden truths. The tension between sympathy and skepticism creates a charged environment, one in which every announcement, photograph, and public statement is scrutinized anew. Moreover, the revelation forces reconsideration of prior interviews, memoirs, and public statements. Meghan's commentary about motherhood, family planning, and personal struggles now takes on additional weight, with audiences reassessing narratives in light of potential hidden medical realities. Engelson's testimony suggests that the public may have been presented with an incomplete story, one carefully curated to align with expectations, image, and the demands of media and institutional narrative management. Ethically, the hysterectomy revelation introduces difficult questions. It intersects with privacy, consent, and the responsibilities of public figures. While the disclosure by Engelson is framed as a pursuit of truth, it also exposes intensely personal information. The balance between public interest and private rights is delicate, particularly in the context of a global figure whose family is under constant scrutiny. The debate over the relevance, morality, and impact of these disclosures will undoubtedly continue, but the factual claim itself, that Meghan Markle allegedly underwent a hysterectomy, remains undeniably shocking. And as the world processes this revelation, the stage is set for further questions about the children. If Meghan could not conceive naturally, the story of Archie and Lillibet requires explanation. Engelson's disclosures hint at possibilities ranging from surrogacy to alternative arrangements, all designed to maintain the public image of a happy, conventional family. The consequences of such arrangements, both ethically and institutionally, are immense. Every public appearance, every announcement, every carefully curated photograph is now subject to scrutiny under this new lens. If Meghan Markle could not conceive naturally, then the obvious question arises: how did Archie Harrison and Lillibet Diana appear in the public eye as the children of the Sussex family? For years, the world celebrated their births, accepted the announcements, and embraced the images of smiling parents and children. But according to Trevor Engelson and multiple sources close to the matter, the story of how these children came into the family may be far more complicated and far more orchestrated than anyone realized. The answer challenges our assumptions about family, truth, and the lengths people will go to protect public perception. From the beginning, public appearances, carefully staged photographs, and media narratives presented Archie and Lillibet as natural extensions of Meghan and Harry's family. But Engelson's disclosures suggest that these children may have been introduced to the public through extraordinary means. While he stops short of revealing explicit details in public forums, insiders hint at a combination of surrogacy, strategic timing, and possibly even the use of doubles or alternate methods to ensure continuity in the family narrative. The goal, apparently, was not deception for malice, but a carefully curated presentation designed to maintain the public perception of a happy, growing family. Timing is key. Archie's birth occurred in 2019, with Lillibet following in 2021. On the surface, these births appeared to align with a conventional timeline. Yet, when cross-referenced with Engelson's claims about Meghan's hysterectomy, inconsistencies emerge. How could a woman who allegedly could not conceive naturally produce children on this timeline? To reconcile this, sources suggest that surrogates may have been involved. Surrogacy, while increasingly common in celebrity circles, is a deeply private matter. In Meghan's case, the secrecy surrounding the children's conception may have been intensified by media scrutiny, royal protocols, and personal privacy considerations. Beyond surrogacy, Engelson's accounts hint at additional complexities. Some insiders suggest that substitutes or controlled public appearances were used to reinforce the perception of the children as Meghan and Harry's biological offspring. For example, limited public exposure, highly curated photographs, and delayed media announcements may have been strategically employed to maintain narrative consistency. Every public milestone, from first birthdays to family outings, was allegedly orchestrated to preserve the illusion of a conventional, biological family. Consider the implications. If the children were introduced through surrogates or other extraordinary means, it would explain many of the subtle anomalies that eagle-eyed observers have noticed over the years: discrepancies in appearance over time, gaps in public visibility, and inconsistencies in reported developmental milestones. What had previously been dismissed as coincidence or media oversight now gains new significance. Each inconsistency becomes a potential clue in a broader puzzle, one that reveals the intersection of privacy, narrative management, and public expectation. The ethical and emotional dimensions of this arrangement are equally complex. For Meghan, managing public perception while protecting the children's privacy is a delicate balancing act. Sources describe her as acutely aware of the scrutiny she faces, carefully controlling every exposure, and meticulously curating each interaction with the media. The strategy appears designed to safeguard her family while ensuring that the public narrative remains consistent. Engelson's disclosures highlight the tension between private realities and public performance, suggesting that Meghan's choices, while controversial, may have been motivated by a desire to protect her children and preserve the family image. Yet, the ramifications extend beyond the private sphere. The monarchy, a centuries-old institution steeped in tradition and public accountability, is highly sensitive to questions of legitimacy, lineage, and perception. If Archie and Lillibet's births involved extraordinary methods or surrogacy, it raises broader questions about transparency, representation, and the management of royal narratives. Every photograph, every announcement, and every public appearance carries institutional significance, making the orchestration of these children's public images a matter of both personal and historical consequence. Social media and public reaction add another layer of complexity. Fans and followers celebrated the children's milestones, sharing messages of admiration and affection. Yet, some observers noticed subtle discrepancies, delayed photo releases, carefully controlled visibility, and inconsistencies in the way milestones were reported. When interpreted in light of Engelson's revelations, these patterns suggest a deliberate strategy to maintain the appearance of a conventional family. The orchestration, while largely unseen, was highly effective in sustaining public perception. The psychological impact on Meghan and Harry cannot be understated. Managing children in the public eye is challenging under normal circumstances. Managing children whose origins are allegedly complex adds a profound layer of stress. Sources describe both Meghan and Harry as intensely protective of their family, navigating scrutiny, criticism, and rumor while maintaining a public image that aligns with societal expectations. Engelson's disclosures underscore the high-stakes nature of this management, revealing a family life that is far more calculated and orchestrated than previously understood. Financial and logistical considerations also emerge. If surrogacy or alternative arrangements were used, coordination, medical oversight, and secrecy would be essential. The resources required to maintain such a process, from medical professionals to media control, underscore the level of planning involved. It is not merely a personal decision. It is a carefully executed operation designed to ensure consistency, privacy, and public credibility. Every aspect of the children's introduction and public exposure appears to have been meticulously controlled, suggesting an extraordinary degree of foresight and strategic thinking. At the same time, the public fascination with Archie and Lillibet underscores the power of narrative. The world wants to believe in a natural, happy family. This desire for coherence, for emotional connection, amplifies the effectiveness of the curated story. Engelson's revelations challenge that perception, forcing audiences to reconsider assumptions, question appearances, and contemplate possibilities that were previously unimaginable. The tension between belief and skepticism creates a charged atmosphere, where every new detail carries immense weight. The potential consequences of these revelations are profound. If the children's existence is, in part, constructed or orchestrated, it challenges narratives of authenticity, legitimacy, and transparency. It also reframes public discourse about Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and the choices they made in balancing private reality with public perception. Engelson's accounts, while controversial, invite a re-evaluation of assumptions, encouraging audiences to critically examine timelines, events, and the broader context of the Sussex family's public story. Many cliffhanger to transition. And yet, if the children's creation raises questions, the role of the royal family, the inner circle, and palace insiders adds another layer of intrigue. The palace was silent. Publicly, the announcement of Archie's birth had been met with carefully worded congratulations, a brief official statement, and a wave of media coverage celebrating the first biracial royal child. Lillibet Diana's arrival followed a similar pattern. Pomp, ceremony, and meticulously staged photographs that conveyed joy and continuity. But behind the closed doors of Buckingham Palace, whispers and concerns were mounting. Those closest to the royal family reportedly knew there was more to the story than what the public saw, and the reactions, both hidden and public, reveal a complex web of intrigue, strategy, and, some would say, complicity. The monarchy has always been an institution obsessed with perception. Every announcement, every photograph, every gesture is crafted to maintain dignity, uphold tradition, and project stability. In the case of Meghan Markle and her children, however, the stakes were far higher. The sudden appearance of Archie and later Lillibet, combined with subtle inconsistencies in timelines and public appearances, created questions that palace insiders could not ignore. Sources suggest that key figures in the institution were aware of irregularities, but faced a dilemma. Publicly acknowledge them and risk scandal, or manage them quietly behind the scenes. The choice, according to insiders, was overwhelmingly the latter. King Charles, Prince William, and senior advisors were reportedly briefed on certain aspects of Meghan's private life, including health considerations and reproductive history, though the full extent of Trevor Engelson's revelations was unknown at the time. The reactions varied. Some were concerned about public perception, others about institutional integrity, and some, sources say, were preoccupied with the potential fallout from media scrutiny. The palace operates on a delicate balance of tradition, protocol, and secrecy, and the sudden scrutiny surrounding Meghan and Harry's family introduced unprecedented challenges. Public statements, carefully released photographs, and orchestrated messaging were all part of a larger strategy. When Archie was born, Buckingham Palace issued a congratulatory message from the Queen, reinforcing the image of continuity and celebration. The media dutifully amplified this narrative, portraying Meghan as a devoted mother and Harry as a doting father. Behind the scenes, however, the story was reportedly more nuanced. Insiders described meetings and briefings where staff attempted to reconcile the public-facing narrative with private knowledge of Meghan's medical history and personal decisions. These efforts underscore the tension between image and reality, a tension that would continue to grow with the birth of Lillibet Diana. The timing of announcements, the control of media exposure, and the selective release of photographs all contributed to a carefully managed perception. Staff members reportedly worked tirelessly to ensure